Hello and welcome to another episode of the Evently Live Chat Show. With us today, we have a very exciting guest, Adrian from Firstbridge. We'll be talking about finance and business. We have quite some interesting questions and topics which will be helpful, I'm sure, to any business, especially small businesses in Malta. With me on the show, we're going to have Jonathan, who I am going to put in the stream now, and also we'll have, please welcome Adrian as well from Firstbridge. So just put them in the stream here. Hi guys, good afternoon.
Hello, good
Hi, good
afternoon.
afternoon, Ben. Great afternoon before the public holiday tomorrow. Thank you for inviting me, and that's it. That's it. Is John online or also?
Yes.
Yes, here I am. Nice to see you again, Adrian.
Hi, John.
And let's have a great show.
Cool. So thanks, Adrian, for coming on to the show. I was wondering if maybe you could tell us a bit about yourself, who Adrian is, and your role and capacity at Firstbridge, and what you're going to be speaking to us about today.
Okay, basically, I'm the accountancy leader at Firstbridge Services. We provide normal corporate services, and myself as the leader of accountancy, we drive accountancy, which with a different touch, providing a tailored approach, accustomed to the relevant client we have. This period is a particular one, but I believe we'll continue on that in the next couple of seconds. That's basically it.
Okay, cool. So, and as Firstbridge as a company, I know that you work on different aspects in terms of advisory, financing, funding, accountancy. Can you touch a bit on those pillars that Firstbridge covers?
Yep. Three main pillars: accountancy, advisory, and tax. Nowadays, we're also focusing also on funding. Funding is crucial, especially for startups, especially in these circumstances which are truly unplanned for to a certain extent by the industry of 2 months, 3 months ago. No one could have expected such repercussions. We as Firstbridge have taken this particular circumstance with a different approach. We have communicated with clients. We have continued to build rapport and making sure that this is not a period of doom, but a period where companies will come out of this far better than they were before.
Yes.
Till now we've succeeded, and all these particular pillars mentioned, accountancy, tax and advisory especially, have been key to ensuring that clients are more knowledgeable about the subject, are more knowledgeable about the effects of this particular period.
Yes.
Education helps to keep everyone in check.
For sure.
Unfortunately, anxiety comes from not knowing, and therefore, the more people know, obviously, with concise measure, the better. And obviously, numbers are the key driver of that. The key number at this stage generally is heard at around 11:30 every day and is given by Prof. Charmaine. And I think
Our
if they
true
have to have
leader.
some statistics over that number, you'll see that it would have reached a good number of following. So numbers are very, very important to ensure business continuity, less anxiety in the business community. Our services are really, really important to ensure this particular period is less of a concern.
Correct. And something you mentioned that I would like to touch up on is one, the uncertainty part and the fear factor comes mainly from not knowing and not just not knowing what's going to happen, but not knowing how to go about things.
Other areas which might affect the local businesses. Uh, Truly, this period has been a period where I think the local environment has started to appreciate the importance of businesses. Um, uh, let's say before this particular special circumstance, people used to say that businesses are there for profits. But now uh, we've come to understand that's not just the case. It's about people. It's about fostering talent and creative talent. So if the economy is down, businesses are down, and these talents can be lost. And we have to say this. Malta has been through some difficult situations in the past. Our fathers have managed to put Malta in a strategic place. Now we're in Europe, so we're getting advantages and more opportunities. And our young talent can prosper through local businesses, going into international fora, and be able to showcase their talents. Till now, we've managed to do this, and would be happy also to hear your feedback with regards to fostering of talent and the ability to tap the international market with local expertise.
Yeah. So yeah, we'll definitely go over that in terms of business impact. So obviously, it's it's hello.
I think we lost Adrian.
We think yes.
Until Adrian comes back, something I would like to touch up on is the importance of having a good financial advisor and a good accountant to work with you in your company. And Firstbridge are our service providers. I mean, they handle all our accountancy except our auditing, and we have another company for that. And I think the key of what made a big difference for us as a company is that they genuinely care and they have been in touch with us. We could have not listened to one bit of news because
Hi,
they
Thais.
gave us.
We'll come back.
Hi, welcome back.
Hi, sorry, lost you.
Don't worry.
What I was saying is that how frequently you were in touch with us, how you kept constant contact, how you gave us new up to date information. And even though in business and in current times there's a lot of uncertainty, it feels it feels so gratifying and such a peace of mind to know that you have a service provider who actually cares. It's not just an accountant who you speak with once every 3 or 4 months when you have your vet return coming up, and that's it. A good financial advisor is someone who keeps in touch with you on a constant basis and who lets you know about things that you had no idea you could do or tackle in particular ways. And that has been detrimental, and that is what we try to be as service providers ourselves.
Yep, yep. I couldn't not agree, obviously, with you. I mean, it's key and strategic. So, as I said before, numbers are very important, and emotions have been running high and loose in these last couple of months. So, Professor Charmaine Gauci was I think, the one which provided us with the most important numbers. But business owners need to know the numbers, need to know their facts, and need to have access to the numbers, and obviously key numbers, not just any numbers. So I think it's all about the numbers at this stage and facts.
All right.
So
So speaking about numbers, when we're talking about business and how businesses have been impacted, and then the show where we had with Ken, the regarding mindset, he actually said like there are companies right now which are making a lot of money. So we lost Adrian again. I'm not sure what's going on there. Okay, so until Adrian comes back, because the question was to Adrian. So, John, what I was going to say is that with the conversation with Ken, we said that many people, many companies, there are companies out there which are making a lot of money. So, it has been a boom for some people. I'm curious to
Yes.
see what the business impact is for most businesses. Is it like a grinding halt in terms of revenue? Is it still some money trickling in? Is it dependent on the industry? It's quite interesting to look into that.
Yes, and I'm very interested about from a financial point of view because they do manage a lot of different companies. What the impact in Malta actually is, because we're seeing these great stories about Spotify and how much it was boosted. Zoom, their valuation has went through the roof. Amazon, they're hiring like crazy because they can't keep up with the demand. And I wonder if it's the same for Malta, because we're hearing a lot about unemployment rates and certain effects on particular businesses, especially at the hospitality. So I'm interested in Adrian's take on how do you see, Adrian, the question that Ben made. Is how do you see it affecting businesses in Malta COVID-19? Are you seeing certain industries that are thriving, or is it generally a grinding halt for the majority of businesses?
No, certainly. I mean, in the short run, certain industries like pharmaceutical, the retail, supermarkets, they've certainly been doing fine. However, obviously, in the long term, there surely is going to be a benefit of the lockdown on the other industries. So I believe last Monday there was an interesting conference with Ray Dalio. This guy is one of the big investors in the world, and he said that the only way that the world economy is going to recover from this is through government initiatives, not just locally but internationally. And the amounts of trillions mentioned both on the US front and the EU front have been quite overwhelming in the sense that
We lost him again. Hello, John, are you there?
I'm still here.
I'm not sure what's going on. Well, apologies for this, guys. To the viewers, we're not sure what's going on his end. We did a test before here, and it was fine. So I don't know if it's like a dropping in the connection or whatever. Um,
As in Rose's Civil War said, what we've got here is failure to communicate.
um, uh, so yeah, we'll actually ask him once he comes back. What if maybe we can help while we're on live. So yeah, I mean, I think that there are certain industries that are actually it's being things are going well for them in terms of groceries, I would say. And okay, I think he's coming back here. Hey, Adrian, is there anything? Is there a drop in the connection, or is there anything we can help with?
it's interesting. I wouldn't know what to say honestly from my end. So probably it's the effect of COVID-19. So then again, through these mishaps, we're also understanding what's important in the economy, in the sense that we're going to come out of this with clear knowledge and about the industries which are truly going to be with more focus, like technology, pharmaceutical, and the medicinal industry. These are all going to be industries which maybe before weren't that appreciated, but more investment will come into them. So I think COVID, as far as businesses go, shouldn't be looked at from the negative side, but also from the opportunity side, from the positive side. Surely you can understand and appreciate the family aspect of this. So we have personnel, people who are now working from homes. So homeschooling apart. So definitely businesses are impacted by this. In what sense that industries after this lockdown need to cater for this particular situation. Surely Malta, I think, has done better than most. Hopefully, people will continue with this sort of kind and respectful approach after COVID. But I mean, again, talking about business, talking about finance and the importance of finance. At this stage, we can only work on the numbers we have and facts we have.
Yes, we have noticed the difference in the way people communicate and negotiate, and how businesses deal with each other. Everyone is a bit more kinder and understanding that than previously. Not that we weren't before, but I think there was a certain level of arrogance. Our Because of the abundance that we had, that certainly impacted, and we foresee that it might even affect like the job market, since an unemployment rate is higher. It would be more of employer's market than an employee's market, right?
Yeah.
So do you foresee that it will make a difference in wages, for instance, and how high they are, and compared to what they were, let's say, 4 months ago, 6 months ago?
Definitely, compassion is part of it. However, money is generally driven by supply and demand. So not sure how emotions come into play on that aspect. However, certainly compassion is I'm feeling that there's more compassion at this stage. So with regards to fees, with regards to employee salaries, at this stage we would be assuming what will happen. Definitely the key drivers are that there is not going to be a normal but a new normal. So
Agree.
it is what it is. Let's take the opportunities out of this. There's been plenty of time to discover some new iterations for our product. I believe you've worked on this too. So I think this has been a great opportunity for everyone to reassess their targets, their values, their product offerings. Overall, I believe it's been more of an opportunity rather than a detriment, let's put it that way, on the local side.
Do you think that maybe I would businesses that are running well, they're constantly looking at making sure that they're constantly generating revenue, but also as much as possible managing costs. But we've always heard of these companies where and even I was, and John was part of a company, like even in the gaming industry, where they're literally splashing money left, right, and center with lots of fanfare and all that. Do you think that the current situation has created a reality check, especially now, for all this, going down back to basics, stripping down all of that fanfare and going down to the basics of running a company as leanly as possible?
I think a lean philosophy is always one of the best foundations for companies. And as I said, this period has been one of opportunity, but also of a reality check. Definitely, as you know, it depends on the business. So businesses which have been around for 10 years, but maybe their business has been into operation during the best of times, might have foregone this sort of lean philosophy. So definitely there will be lessons learned. Definitely there will be people who might be out of the market. But let's focus on the good side of things. So government, the local government um, uh, has been listening. Incentives have been provided. So let's put it that way. It's a polishing period where companies can come out of this in a better position. So at this stage, we can only assume what's going to be the next future, but um, uh, let's be mature enough to focus on the facts and on the numbers.
Yeah, and there. So going to the second question here, you already hear companies, we have heard of companies that as soon as COVID hit, they couldn't make the payroll for that month, right? So they were
Yep.
already kind of on a fine line, treading a fine line. So the question begs the question: was it really COVID that killed them, or were they running the business not in the best possible way? So that's kind of one thing that I'd like to explore, and the other thing is factors that make or break the business.
Mhm.
Um, there are businesses which are broken. Does that mean that they are broken and they can't recover, or what are their means for recovering? There are many questions around this topic that I'd like to discuss.
Yep, definitely. I mean, and I'd like to involve you also in this, but definitely it's been a period where people start to reassess their tools, reassess their systems, reassess the planning that they've had, and all these structures, which there might be cases where there were no systems, where there are no tools, where
Hmm.
there are no teams, no team meetings, no particular structure of management. And another important subject is accessibility. So we're doing this show, and the feed was dropping. So accessibility is key. We cannot keep thinking with the methodology we used to think 10 years ago. So the factors in play during this time are the result of work we've done in the last couple of years and the last 6 months. So thinking of the rainy day, I think it's a couple of months of rainy days. So, but the importance of tools, therefore, the importance of having a CRM in place, the importance of having team structures and systems, um, uh, these will make or break businesses. So my suggestion is accessibility. Do you have systems which are accessible? Do you have tools which are accessible? Are you still working with the old notebook rather than cloud-based Excel, for example? Is your accounting system still on the desktop and you cannot access it other than from your office? These are all questions which can make or break. And why is that? Emotions run high. But we need hard facts so that we can limit these emotions. For
Yes,
me, it's
but
numbers.
I think a lot of people underestimated the flexibility of having cloud-based solutions, in order for when these things happen, you can easily adapt and just plug and play your computer from a different location, as happened to us, and you just go on with your day. Of course, there's the adapting to working from home. People have families, kids running around, which will always be a factor, but that giving you that flexibility, working with modern tools and increasing your productivity, I think people will. What we've learned from this COVID stuff will be a good stepping stone for years to come. And in regards to numbers and finances, I have a question which kind of Ben mentioned, and it's about how, and want to talk about Maltese businesses in general, or businesses in Malta in this case. Um, how frequently, in your experience, do business owners think about having a good war chest? You know, they're having enough money in the bank that can outlast a certain amount of period, or increasing their runway, versus they made X amount, half a million last year, let's invest it in something else.
Yeah, and further to that, like what is a safe runway? Does such a number exist if it's 1 month, if it's 6 months, if it's 12? I mean, the longer the better, of course. But what is a safe runway in your view?
So, I think it's more of a question of systems. So, if a company has got a strong system, a strong investment system, a strong financing system, it's all about a structure. So, let's say let's say I'm not a person who would rely on having third parties involved, and thus I don't have the knowledge of all these incentives which came in, or else I'm not acquainted with banks' finance measures, or else I'm not aware of investment from third-party investors. Um, uh, Having a team, and not just your internal team, but third-party professionals or other mentors from other companies. It's all a system. So saying you need to have 2 months salary, 6 months salary, it's difficult to say. I mean, businesses rely on investment in a different way, and they're structured in a different way. For example, a service company might have wages as their cost, so their investment would be focused on employees and on employee development. A hotelier would have other investment opportunities. So giving a number to investment is would be a big assumption. Nevertheless, I think your question uh, requires the answer on having these systems in place. Surely, during this particular period, that answer has been out for many people, and probably there might be some people who might say, "All right, this has been a fact check for me, and I'm learning that I should have prepared for example, 3 months of salary being covered." Then again, it's just a number. It doesn't mean that all companies need to have that number and so on, because the success of a company depends on investment. So
Yes,
each
whether it's
company,
marketing investment or any other
it's
kind, but still, there must be a certain amount that will make any company safe. So,
sure,
in my
sure.
opinion, let's say if there is less than 4 months of running cost in the bank, you shouldn't like invest heavily. And in case of something bad happens, you're basically betting the business.
Mhm.
So. Would it um 4 months if you had to say like a blanket number for different types of businesses, let's say in the service industry, right? Because a hotel is very different, but service industry or a restaurant, what would you say would be that amount for good peace of mind?
It depends on the potential for you to access money. In the sense that you might tell me, listen, I have nothing in the banks. I live month by month, but then I have access to funding from banks because I can use my guarantee, my property as a guarantee, for example. So
Fair enough.
um, again, giving a number is risky. Then it depends on your risk appetite as a founder of a company, and obviously depending on the business. So again, I won't comment on a number because it would be fruitful, I say. So businesses like yours, like ours, they would require funding to cover wages, for example. But then again, the number depends and depends on the access to finance.
Okay, so
Correct.
to sum up on this question is essentially making sure that you have good systems in place for accessibility is what you mentioned, like making sure that if you like what happened, you need to close the office and work from home. I think the businesses that could immediately start working from that day because they had cloud solutions, they had CRM, they had collaboration tools like Slack or Microsoft Teams or whatever. We really did not, as a company, we did not have any downtime at all. So I guess those, and hence the teleworking relief packages, that is immensely powerful.
Yep.
The other stuff is having systems where you set structures in place where you're constantly checking in with your team, you're checking in with your employees and making sure everyone's aligned to the same vision. Also making sure that you have your accounts in order, not running on some Excel sheet that no one has access to, but actually looking at what our finances looking like for the next X weeks, X months. Those are the three pillars that I picked up from what you said. Is there anything else that you'd like to? And obviously, this works if to make or break. The opposite of this will eventually break you. Is there anything
Definitely.
else you'd like to add on top of those before we go to the next question?
Definitely. And for those companies for those companies who weren't prepared, it's there is help. So then again, seek help. Obviously, learn from these mistakes. Write them down on your cloud-based solution. But there is help. There are people willing to help, to guide. It's then again, it's when we talk about business, it's all about people and relationships and trust. So let's not think of business just about money. So if it were the case, probably our businesses have been closed by this time, because nobody would care about employee relationship, about taking care that the families of our employees are being taken care of. So business is not just about money, it's about people, it's about trust. And for those companies who are in trouble or who think that they're not going to live out of this, they need to seek help.
Yeah. So you're touching on a very important point, is that safeguarding your employees, because they are your most important asset, because without the employees, most businesses I think would cease to operate. So safeguarding, and we touched on this even in a show we had with Growth Gurus, which inspired us to do this, is like we are doing everything, as you know, Adrian, within our power to retain our employees, not just from a humanitarian point of view, but also from a business point of view, that
Yep.
we need to be the team we were to continue to function. So it's not just numbers, but even this extremely important resource of holding on to your team. And first, before that, recruiting the right talent, right? So we can go into a whole new discussion of talent acquisition and retention and all that.
Yep, definitely. And your team has worked brilliant to this. So I mean, we're going to get out of this with different products, and as I said, with a different new normal. So I don't know what you think, Jonathan, about how your experience has been with cloud-based. I know that maybe you're more acquainted than others to share your thoughts about this.
Yes. For us, having a basic structure where everything is cloud-based was a decision that we made right from the beginning, even before the company was actually set. So, like, one of the first major tasks that Ben had for before setting the company was to set up the CRM system, a customer relationship management system, and that has proved to be invaluable, right? And for many businesses, it's much easier to start with good practices than to change course halfway or 2 years down the line. But it's never too late on either. So if you're going on the old way of doing things, setting up a CRM system doesn't take that much time. It's about having the processes in place and having the discipline that you track everything in the CRM. So for us, we know who we've contacted, how often we've contacted them, whether it's related to sales or just relationships. It makes a huge difference. And also to keep track of how the team is performing, because that has been a net positive. Of using the CRM. So if we need to see how many calls we made to suppliers over a period of time, then we can easily go there and see how many calls we made, what the outcomes were, and at what stage of a sales process, sales cycle we are. So yes, I do highly recommend, and it doesn't cost that much money, because that's the other thing. Like, I know people who still have mail servers inside their office which are 100 years old, and if the electricity goes, they don't have any more email, and it's 2020, right?
Yep.
So cloud-based solutions, they're nothing to be afraid of. Most of them are secure. Of course, nothing is 100% secure, not even your office server. But as businesses, we must be as flexible as possible, and we must make sure that we're not wasting time doing repetitive or redundant stuff, instead of focusing what's really important, which is growing our business.
Yep, yep. That's the key part of this. I remember I was in a conference, I believe 2 years ago, where the main objective of the stock was to reduce the expectations gap, and basically the difference between what the client expects and um, and what you provide. So and through cloud base, we're able to reduce that gap. In what sense? We're able to ensure that the particular leader of a particular job can focus on the rapport of this particular relationship, to ensure that the little things can be dealt with by a cloud base, by an automated process. So then a cloud base would come into fact as a factor, by having your teammate see this particular data coming in, and therefore there's the efficiency of time and that too.
And making sure everything is up to date, right? Because if
Yep,
I need to access my accounting software, versus of how we used to handle our budget sheets with Excel sheets and so on, you can be pretty sure that you're working on up to date and accurate data versus data that was last updated a month ago, because you didn't have time to do it. So real-time data is super important, and I hope that in a few years' time we won't even need to discuss this any further, because people who are introduced to this, they always stick with it, right?
yep,
That is
yep,
from my experience. We don't sell these kind of services, but from I know from my contacts and network, people who switch to these kinds of solutions, the first thing they say is, "Why didn't we do this before?"
yep, yep, yep. Obviously, um, uh, people have the tendency to go back to old habits. So unfortunately, it's natural, but we need to work on continuing to develop, and continuing to ensure that we're at the forefront of a new particular idea. So cloud base is definitely one of them, not just
Not just
not just, but
the cloud based is a solution, but the processes of how you go about things, that is the big differentiating factor.
yep,
And they tend to, when you stick to these solutions, they tend to make you stick to good practices. But then it's up to you, as a business owner, or as a manager, that you follow these practices. It's useless to have a CRM which you're excited about for the first month, and then 3 months down the line, nothing is up to date. You've just wasted a bunch of time of yourself and your team, right?
yep.
But if you stick with that process, then your business will be better off for it.
Yep, yep. So just to give you an example, 20 years ago, not sure 10 years ago, but 20 years ago, accounting and bookkeeping was kept in the big journals. I think they were A3 journals,
In the
where
vault.
where now you find them in the vault. But then things have progressed. So there was Excel, there was DOS. Probably you know about DOS yourself too.
Well, I'm old school, Adrian.
You're old school. So then there came some good desktop-based systems, and now we are at cloud-based systems. Would I go back to desktop-based? No, I say no. Obviously, there's that theory of hysteresis which basically says that if you don't continue to force a particular change, then you might fall back into old habits. So it's good to be comfortable, but you cannot succeed.
But there's also, if you really want to enforce change, you need to kind of make it easy for the user, right? And many of the older systems were, let's face it, they were difficult to understand, let alone implement. But nowadays, online, I don't know, a CRM or these on accounting platforms, you can get up and running within minutes, at least the high level. So things have become easier, plug and play, and wizard based where you're just clicking next and you're up and running. So we don't really have an excuse anymore that these things are cumbersome. And even if they are, we have much more, with your word, accessibility to services where people can help you, and many times for free. YouTube tutorials and whatever.
And I use my particular career, my role as an example, but even with your product, with Evently. Imagine 10 years ago, trying to set up an event, even 6 months ago to the event, or 1 year ago. But the difference to now. It's a totally different experience. But we might say that we're living the future as far as events organization. That's it on that subject, I think. But there's plenty more to say.
Cool. We are actually already over the 40 minutes as usual, but the discussions are always interesting, so we can start to bring it to a close. But the last question, Adrian, is suggestions to businesses and community at large over and above the function of finance. And we spoke a lot outside the function of finance, but I don't know if you can give us some remarks on this topic here.
I'll close off as similar to how I started, as with regards to emotions. So, with regards to businesses, with regards to the person who's trying to set up a business, focus on facts. So emotions, especially during this period, can run high. You start listening from all kind of news, all kind of specialized sources, but you be very careful. So, for example, if with regards to COVID, we're listening from Prof. Charmaine because she's the professional, and what she says, those are facts, and we have to listen to those authorities. So, if there are incentives, then go on the particular source to provide you the factual incentives. Because it can easily be a waste of time. It can easily put you on the wrong track. So listening to the right persons, identifying the right persons and right sources, and obviously, if I had to leave with a general comment, we have to listen to authorities. So we're soon going into the summer season, but in order for us to enjoy our summer, we need to make sure that we close off this lockdown, supporting each other to stay at home as far as possible. That's basically it. So facts, looking for the facts, be careful of the sources that are out there, assuring you have the right tools and some systems. and that's it.
Cool. And not to make it in any promotional way. So this is literally a genuine remark. So what? How can Firstbridge have been helpful to us as Get Hitch and Evently since the beginning, right? So I can say how Firstbridge can apply to other companies, but if you had to say in a few words, like how, if there's anybody out there who needs finance help, advice, guidance, whatever it is that you can provide, what is it that you can help with, and how can they contact you?
Yep, I mean we use most social media, so we're available on Facebook. If that's what I see as the best way for people to approach us. Then the particular query will go to a person who is going to lead that particular subject, or filter it so that it's a particular leader will take it over. And again, the idea is so that we make sure that particular query, a particular issue is being dealt with in an efficient manner. Again, we shouldn't leave matters open and ideas flying without concise, factual information. So please feel free to message us on Facebook or LinkedIn, and we'll be happy to help, and not just to help, to serve in a professional way.
Awesome. All right.
Thank
So
you for
thanks
that.
a lot for that. We can bring this now to a close because we are over time. I don't know if there's anything, John or Adrian, you'd like to say before we close off.
Yeah, so of course I would like to thank Adrian for joining us and for that information. And what I like a lot about Adrian is no matter what the situation is, he has a cool and calm demeanor. And what he talks about here is not just advice for a show, but it's something that we experienced ourselves. And always base things on the numbers. I mean, that is the real testament of an accountant, but it's also really the truth, because whenever a decision needs to be made, it needs to be made on cold hard facts, right? And while it's not, let's say, the sexiest part of business, it's definitely one of the most important parts. And sometimes us as founders, we are not as savvy in the financial realm. So if you are not that kind of person, you must make sure that you have the right people, whether it's Firstbridge or otherwise, who can help you in that part. Most co-founders focus on the growth part and the creative part and coming up with ideas and so on. But it's very important that you know your numbers, and that you have the right people who can help you, even with funding and government funds and so on. We must always be chasing these things to help us grow our business.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Cool.
yeah.
Thanks, John. Adrian, I don't know if you have any final remarks.
No, I mean, from my end, I'll join John in his last event, just to keep developing and to continuously and never stop improving. So that's my
I
message to everyone. And thanks for the invite for this.
It's our
Thank
pleasure.
you. Thank you, Adrian. I'm going to wave goodbye. I'm just going to remove you from the stream and bring the show to a close. So see you
Thanks a lot.
guys. See you
Thanks a lot.
soon.
Take
Bye.
care. Take care.
So there you have it. Let me just remove this from the screen. Okay, there you have it. Another exciting episode on Evently, this time with Firstbridge, talking a lot about numbers, talking about the finance function and business, talking about what can make or break a company, systems, processes, structures, funding. We spoke about a lot of topics. Essentially, what I got from this discussion is be human, first of all. Number two is follow the numbers. Numbers don't lie unless they are thwarted. And we also believe as a mantra, you can't manage what you can't measure. So make sure that you're looking into these things from a holistic point of view. Thank you so much for joining the show again. We're going to have another show tomorrow on Evently. Thanks to Adrian. Thanks to John. See you tomorrow. Have a great day. Bye bye.